This plant is famous for one thing: hurting you. So why would anyone eat it, brew it into tea, or press it directly against an aching joint on purpose? Stay to the end and you'll learn exactly what causes that sting, what modern research says about nettle for allergies and for prostate health, why you should never eat it raw, and how to grow a plant most gardeners try to avoid on purpose. The plant is Urtica dioica, stinging nettle. Tall, upright, with deeply serrated leaves and a covering of tiny, fragile hairs along the stem and leaf surface. Those hairs are the whole story. Each one is a tiny, hollow, needle-like structure. Brush against it, and the tip breaks off and injects a small cocktail of natural chemicals directly into your skin. That cocktail includes formic acid, histamine, and serotonin, the same kind of compounds involved in your body's own pain and itch signals. It's not magic. It's a very small, very precise injection. Humans have known about that sting for thousands of years and, strangely, used it on purpose. Roman soldiers stationed in cold, damp Britain reportedly rubbed nettle against their own skin to generate warmth and keep circulation moving. That practice has a name: urtication, deliberately stinging a sore area with fresh nettle, based on the old idea that the resulting inflammation could ease deeper aches, especially in the joints. Beyond the sting, nettle has an equally long history as food. Young spring leaves have been cooked into soups and greens across Europe for centuries. Once the sting is neutralized by heat, there's nothing left to fear. If your own family ever gathered wild greens in spring, dandelion, nettle, whatever grew along a fence line, that habit connects to something people have done out of necessity for a very long time, long before it was a wellness trend. So what does modern research actually say about nettle? One well-studied use is seasonal allergies. Some clinical trials have tested freeze-dried nettle leaf for hay fever symptoms, with a few finding modest relief compared to placebo, though results across studies are inconsistent. There's a second area of research that matters especially for older men. Nettle root, not the leaf, has been studied for symptoms of an enlarged prostate, a condition called benign prostatic hyperplasia, or BPH. Several clinical trials, often combining nettle root with saw palmetto, have found modest improvement in urinary symptoms, weaker flow, frequent nighttime trips to the bathroom, compared to placebo. Modest is the honest word. Nettle root is not a substitute for a proper prostate evaluation, and it doesn't shrink the prostate the way some prescription medications can. It's a supportive option some men explore alongside medical care, not instead of it. There's also small research interest in nettle leaf applied topically for joint pain, echoing that old urtication practice, though modern trials are limited and mostly small. So the honest summary: nettle has real, if modest, supportive evidence for allergy symptoms and for prostate-related urinary symptoms, genuinely useful information, but not a cure for either. Now, the warning that matters most. Never eat fresh, raw nettle. The sting doesn't stop at your skin, it works exactly the same way inside your mouth and throat. Cooking, blanching, or thoroughly drying the leaves neutralizes it completely. Nettle has a mild diuretic effect. It can increase how much fluid your body releases. That matters if you take lithium, since changes in fluid balance can affect how your body handles that specific medication. It may also interact with blood pressure medications and diabetes medications, since nettle has been associated with mild effects on both blood pressure and blood sugar. If you manage either condition with medication, check before using nettle regularly. And nettle is generally advised against during pregnancy, based on traditional use patterns and limited safety data for concentrated preparations. This is exactly the kind of detail worth knowing before you start something new, especially if you're already managing blood pressure, diabetes, or take a medication like lithium. A 5-minute conversation with a pharmacist can save real confusion later. For everyday use, cooked nettle is simple and genuinely nutritious. Young spring leaves, harvested with gloves and cooked briefly, taste something like a slightly mineral, spinach-like green. A simple nettle soup uses blanched leaves, a good broth, and whatever aromatics you like: onion, garlic, a little potato for body. Nettle tea, made from dried leaf, is even simpler: steep and drink. Always wear gloves when harvesting fresh nettle. Cotton gardening gloves are usually enough to stop the hairs from breaking skin. Once it's cooked or dried, you can handle it freely. Now for the part gardeners have complicated feelings about: growing it on purpose. Nettle prefers rich, moist soil and part shade to full sun, conditions many gardens already have in a slightly neglected corner. It's not fussy, and that's exactly the problem for people who don't want it. It spreads through underground rhizomes, much like mint, and can form a dense patch quickly if left unchecked. A contained bed or a deliberately out-of-the-way corner works better than open garden soil. Here's the reason many gardeners tolerate a patch anyway. Nettle is a host plant for several butterfly species, including red admirals, painted ladies, and small tortoiseshells, which lay their eggs specifically on nettle leaves. A single unruly patch tucked in a back corner can quietly support an entire generation of butterflies most gardeners never realize they're hosting. If you do grow it, harvest young leaves regularly with gloves for cooking, and cut the patch back before it flowers and seeds if you want to keep it contained. So where does that leave the plant famous for hurting you? Nettle's sting is real chemistry, not folklore, and so is its usefulness once that sting is neutralized: a nutritious cooked green, modest support for allergy symptoms, and genuinely researched support for prostate-related urinary symptoms in men. Its most important cautions are specific, not dramatic: never eat it raw, and check with a healthcare professional if you take lithium, blood pressure medication, or diabetes medication. And in the garden, a small contained patch of nettle does something few ornamental plants can claim: it quietly feeds a whole generation of butterflies most gardeners never see happening. It's a strange kind of plant, one that hurts you if you're careless, feeds you if you're patient, and quietly supports a garden's wildlife if you simply leave it alone in the right corner. Familiar plants keep turning out to be more complicated and more useful than their reputation suggests. Plant Lore After 60 will be back with the next one.